Today's opening tip, undrafted rookie Jayshawn Tate dropping the hammer on Nikola Jokic. Vince, I don't know, should the Rooks show more respect to the vet?
No, he's trying to make his name in the league. So to me, that's how you make your name, especially if you're a guy, if you're a high flyer. Everybody watches film. So when they watch that, everybody's going to react and they're going to say, hey, rewind that back. Oh, man, okay. You're aware of what he can do. So
that's like young Vince
Keep
Carter.
doing it, young fella.
There you go.
Absolutely. That's how you make it.
Welcome to The Jump. I'm Rachel Nichols. I'm alongside 8-time All-Star Vince Carter and NBA senior writer, host of The Lowe Post, Zach Lowe. Coming up, another impressive, important performance undone by a loss for James Harden. But should the former MVP be encouraged by the Rockets' start? We will discuss. First, though, plucky, feisty, spunky. If you're the Portland Trailblazers, you've heard all those descriptions over the years. And look, they're compliments, don't get me wrong. But the thing about Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum is that they aren't here to be anyone's cute little spoilers. They're here to win a championship, which is why when the Blazers had a rough preseason, it raised some eyebrows. It's why there was even more talk after Portland turned in a 20-point loss in its season opener, a game in which Lillard, gasp, went on a scoreless streak in the first half. Yes, Portland had dealt with a rash of COVID absences, but wasn't this the team that had one of the best off seasons in the NBA, with Yusuf Nurkic back at full strength, with Gary Trent Jr. blossoming and Robert Covington and Derrick Jones Jr. coming aboard? Questions piled up about why the Blazers weren't, better. It turns out that those questions were being asked internally, too. And what has happened since, well, no one is winning a title in game 2 or 3 of the regular season. But it is hard to get where you want to go if you're not even walking down the right road. And Portland seems, at least finally, to have found its path. First, over the weekend, an overtime thriller against Houston, in which CJ and James Harden each dropped 44. It was hardly a statement win. The Rockets only had 9 players available due to their own COVID issues. But it sure felt noisy, especially when McCollum, who'd spent 4 days listening to his name come up in Harden trade reports, buried the game-winning 3 with 6 seconds on the clock. Afterward, he said, quote, "I know I'm nice," which is amazing. And then last night, a date with the defending champs, the team that had knocked the Blazers out of the bubble. With both LeBron and AD on the floor, this one was more of a real test. And despite some streaky play, the Blazers passed. Gary Trent Jr. was exceptional off the bench, hitting from everywhere to finish with 28. Nurk and Enes Kanter combined for 26 rebounds. And Damian Lillard just caught fire when he had to do moves like this on his way to a 31-point night. Yeah, you can check out the handles on the way to the and one. But the real story was the Blazers' defense, which had been the focal point of the front office this offseason. The Blazers have been trying a revised scheme, even bringing in ex-Bulls head coach Jim Boylan on a 3-week stint to help implement it. But for a while, it seemed to be making things worse, not better. Until it didn't. Whatever clicked for the team defensively in the second half of the Houston game was on full display against the Lakers, with Rocco all over the place, making steals, deflections, even making Anthony Davis look like a mere mortal as Davis finished the game with just 13 points. Meanwhile, Derrick Jones Jr., full airplane mode on LeBron, bounding in from the three-point line to give the Finals MVP a taste of one of his own signature moves. The Lakers had gone into the night 59-0 in games which they led after 3 quarters. That had been the 5th longest streak in NBA history, and the Blazers broke it. It was a well-rounded win in a shortened season where every win counts a little more than usual. Of course, only time will tell what wins like this mean. Is it one of those impressive sparks the Blazers have lit all the time over the past few years? You know, wins that make a team plucky? Or is it the beginning of a larger flame, one that really could burn down the whole league? So, Vince, do you think that this Blazers team can join the rank of title contender?
They put the right pieces around it. You have shooting, you have rebounding, you have airplane mode, who is their shot blocker. I think everybody is going to have to play at that level, elite level, all year long, all playoffs long, leading into it. I think Zach Collins, getting him back is going to be important. And also having Carmelo, because there's a guy who can get you a bucket when you need it. that demands attention and the double teams. It's tough. The West is tough, and they're in a situation where if they play well and you have a good record, you're like, oh, they're playoff bound. And, I think they just need to get in. And they're a scary team to beat because of their scoring. Gary Trent Jr., who's a rising star and another complimentary scorer, they have the ability, but, they have to stay healthy, and we'll see.
Right now, they're short of that, I think, but they're contenders to be contenders, and that's a good step for the Blazers. You have to put them behind Lakers, Clippers, and Nuggets after what Denver did in the bubble. You have to put them behind all those teams. In that next tier of teams, Utah, Dallas, Portland, I think Portland has the most to prove. Utah has a longer track record of being a good defensive team. Portland's defense was a disaster last season. As Vince said, Covington, Jones, the return of Zach Collins, they've got the tools there to be an average defense, maybe a slightly above average defense. We just have to see. And then Dallas has what you really want if you want to contend for a title, which is one of the apex predator wings. 6'7", sees every pass, can score from all over the floor, and that's, of course, Luka Doncic. It's just tough sledding in the playoffs when your two best scorers are small guards, and those guys are incredible. Dame is incredible, and CJ is nice. Just like he said, he's nice. He's got the deepest bag of tricks in the whole league. It's just they've got more to prove. They've got more to show us. But given their resources, given what they had to work with, they've put a pretty damn good team together. And all you can ask for in that situation is, are we one ankle injury from a rival? Are we one big break? Are we one trade away from being in the conference finals? And I think they can get in that conversation. But top-tier contenders, they're not there yet.
Yeah, but I will say this. I think adding Covington is going to be essential for them because they're going to need somebody, like you said, to guard Luka Doncic. They're going to need somebody to guard LeBron. Some of these big Kawhi. Some of these big guards, these big scorers, and Covington, like you saw him guarding AD, he's going to be very important to their squad. He's going to have to stay healthy because I think, like you said, with the small guards, when you're seeing Luka trying to post those guys up, you can throw a Covington on him, and Covington can guard 1 through 4 and maybe some 5. So he's going to play an important role to that squad.
Let's switch over to Robert Covington's old team for a second here. James Harden, another explosive scoring game on Monday, scoring 34 points in 31 minutes. Harden's new teammate, Christian Wood, another 20-point game of his own. But the Nuggets won this decisively, guys. Houston 0-2 as they wait for John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins to rejoin the team. James spoke post-game on the process of his team's improvement. Take a listen.
Everything. You need practice. You need reps. You need to drill things. You need to keep going over things and just, instill them in our heads. So when we're out there on the games, we're not overthinking. We know where we're supposed to be defensively and offensively. And at that point, it's just execute.
So, Zach, James not tipping a lot in his public comments. Do you think that Harden should be encouraged by the Rockets' first 2 games, especially considering they're missing the guys that they are?
I mean, we haven't seen their real team yet, so it's hard to know, right? You mentioned all the guys that they are missing, but they're dead last in defense after 2 games. I know it's only 2 games, but they just haven't been competing on defense. They've had a lot of communication errors, and maybe it is just the jumbled personnel. But Denver just picked them apart last night, toyed with them, just absolutely toyed with them. That's discouraging, and I don't know how fixable that is. Do you see a really good defensive team in here? I personally don't, and their effort in the first 2 games has not been that great. But the one sign of encouragement is Christian Wood is a stud, and Christian Wood is the best pick-and-roll partner, the most versatile pick-and-roll partner James Harden has ever had, unless you count Kevin Durant, who's on a different universe. Christian Wood is that good, and if some of the supporting pieces come together, he and James is the centerpiece of an offense, that can be really dynamic and really hard to guard, but it just doesn't seem like they have the spirit right now. When you're last in defense, you're last in defense.
Yeah, point blank. Zach said it. When you're last in defense, you are. But, the one thing about it, you have DeMarcus Cousins coming back. You have John Wall. So they're impact players, guys who can make a difference, can help you offensively. Defensively, I don't know. But, for them, they're going to have to get out and run. And obviously, that's what John Wall can do and get up and down the court, get to the basket and transition and make plays. So defensively, it's going to be the question. They're going to have to outscore teams to win, which we've seen them do. James Harden has shown that he's in form and he's ready to go. It's just that's going to be the question all year. Christian Wood, let me just say, first of all, the Pistons let him go. I don't know why, but it's a great pickup for Houston, and hopefully it's something that is encouraging that can keep James around and motivated for throughout the year.
Well, motivated certainly is part of the big question, right? When you're last in defense, as Zach notes, at least a component of that is effort, right? And it just speaks to the team spirit. And I'm not singling out any one player here. I'm talking about the entire team. Personally, it is my hope that James gives this team a little bit of a chance when John Wall and Boogie and some of their other guys come back, because this could be a really, really intriguing roster. And James has 2 years left on his contract, plus a player option, but the 2 years, so he does not have ultimate say of where he would be traded to. It's not a situation where he has just a few months left, so teams don't want to trade for him unless there's a guarantee that he'll sign a longer deal. He could get sent anywhere to a team that isn't as good as the team he has right now. So I hope some of that spirit, that motivation, can come in the next couple weeks, because it would be interesting to see this Rockets team as currently constituted to find out what they can do and who they can be. All right, coming up, no team has started hotter than the Atlanta Hawks, but can they sustain it? First, though, it's time for our distant replay. This in the big wide world. What do you think?
Look, if Lou Dort is going to shoot threes like this, put him in the Hall of Fame. Have you seen this guy play defense? I get tired watching him play defense. I don't even want that guy within 10 feet of me. If he starts making threes, shut it all down. The guy's a phenomenal defender, and he seems to like shooting threes. They almost hit the ceiling, but they were going in.
They go in.
Defense, I like this kid, man. He plays hard.
Absolutely. Make yakety sax time. The Nuggets and Rockets playing a basketball game last night, and it got downright ugly in the third. Vince, can you give us one word to describe this sequence?
Interesting. No, it's just the beginning. It's the beginning of the season blues, man. It's the beginning of the season blues. It really is. And you tend to see some bad basketball with a short off season. You're going to see this a little bit.
Zach, you
We
got a word?
cut the clip short of Mike Malone. Yeah, we exasperating.
No,
we cut the clip short of Mike Malone calling the angriest time out of the season.
And there you go. All right, miss Wi-Fi. Airplane mode was on a menace. He was just a menace on defense last night. First, the huge block on LeBron. We showed you this earlier. Then, though, a few minutes later, Cantor gets called for the foul, but again, Jones Jr. obliterating LeBron's shot. Vince, what is it like when you're a player used to doing pretty much whatever you want in the airspace above the net, and a young fellow keeps coming along to block you?
I tell you what, especially when you like, oh man, easy too. And you can look at, if you look at LeBron's face on that first layup, he was like, oh, I got the bump. This is 2 points. And all of a sudden you see somebody swatting it. It's sometimes it kind of frustrates you.
Yeah. Zach, I'm not going to ask you what that feels like. I hope you're not offended.
No, I don't know. Unfamiliar.
Tell him, Zach.
Make aesthetics. Check out these new Hawks unis. Little throwback to the 80s and 90s. Zach, what's nicer to look at, though, the jerseys or Trey's handles?
I mean, the jerseys are nice. No more Volt Green or whatever BS they were screwing around with. No more feathers. Just nice Hawks colors. But Trae Young is averaging 34 games, shooting the lights out, clowning people off the dribble. So Trae, as nice as those uniforms are, the answer is Trae Young.
Yeah, and of course they go to the new unis when I leave.
Exactly.
But it's all good.
They needed to have you in the throwbacks, Vince, because you actually played against the team
I'm
wearing
throwback.
them. Exactly.
Oh.
No, it's the truth. I can't argue with that. That's true.
Let's stick with the Hawks, who are 3-0 after last night. Trae Young leading all scorers, 29 points. Atlanta shot nearly 48% from three-point range. Home win over the Pistons. Vince, you played for this team just last season, right? So you know these guys better than anyone. Is this hot start sustainable?
Well, I'll start by saying this: 72-0 is still possible. Correct? You can't go 3-0. You can't win 72 games without going 3-0.
You're
so we'll start there.
Right. Yep.
Exactly. So we'll start that. But no, seriously, one thing I'm enjoying seeing about this team is the growth of the young players. But one thing that has really stuck out for me is Trey is making the effort early. This is one thing we argued with all year last year. All year is that, hey, get your guys involved early to make the game easier for you, because we know he can start the game and go crazy and for 48 minutes dominate. But for him, it's like if you get these guys going and start and have guys like Kevin Huerter shooting like he's shooting right now, Hunter playing like he's playing out of his mind, Cam Reddish giving him confidence, all these guys, and they start making shots, the game is a lot easier. Now you add Clint Capella for the lob, Collins for the lob. The game is spread out for you, and he's able to do the things that he's seeing, showing his handle, showing his range, showing his ability to pass. And it's been great to see, and I think that's been the success of this team is he's facilitating, getting guys easy shots, and then once they're rolling, he goes to work.
Are they going to be the greatest offense in NBA history? No. Are they going to shoot 70% on corner threes, which is what they're shooting right now? Not much longer. They're going to play some good teams soon. They'll come back to earth. But I said before the season, this is a legitimate problem on offense. This offense is going to be really, really good. Defensively, they have a lot of questions to answer, but they have a really nice mix of veterans and young guys. They have a lot of different kind of lineups they can use. They can go big. They can go more defense-oriented, more offense-oriented. We haven't even seen Danilo Gallinari yet this season. I think this team, absolute floor should be the 8th seed and so one of the favorite spots in the play-in tournament. That should be their floor. They are going to be that dynamic offensively. They have that many guys. And to Vince's point, Trey's been unbelievable. The two things I'm watching are how Capella and Collins fit on offense when they play together, and the development of Hunter and Reddish, who have gotten off to nice starts. They look more confident. They look more comfortable with the ball. If those guys pop a little bit, this team is all of a sudden really, really deep and potentially deep in two-way players.
Well, look, it was nice seeing Capella.
Exactly. That's what I was going to add to that.
Yeah, go ahead, Vince.
Sorry, that's what I was going to add to that, Zach, is that one thing about Cam Reddish, his defensive ability is unreal. I mean, he has great hands, great on-ball instincts, as well as DeAndre Hunter. So those are two guys that are great. Well, that has potential to be great two-way players. That's on the ball. And the wonderful thing about having Capella is you can funnel everything down to him, and you can gamble. And these guys, like I said, they already have great hands. So you funnel them down to Capella, you funnel them down to John Collins, who are shot blockers. Good things can happen because we already know once they get in transition, either they're getting a lob, layup, or three, point blank.
Well, it's nice to see Capella and Rondo make their season debuts last night. Rondo, of course, his debut with the Hawks. And you're right, Vince, they are a more veteran team than the year when you were with them. But it is nice, even for a team that still has young players on it. You get that confidence from starting the season 3-0. Even if you do come back to earth in a lot of those statistical categories, you can build on that. And it's the way you want to start, better than 0-3, which we have seen around the league. Coming up, even though KD and Kyrie didn't play last night, the Nets have established a trend of playing them together this season. Should they keep that going, or should they start doing staggering? We will discuss next on The Jump. Stick with us.
He has vision. He knows that shot will be there, or he can dribble downhill if he really wants to as well, because Wiseman is also setting the screen on his man. But he sees Joe Harris on the flare screen from Dinwiddie. He doesn't even hesitate. On time, on target, perfect pass for an easy layup. They know if they cut hard to the basket, Durant will find and make the right play for you to score.
Vince Carter breaking down tape of Kevin Durant. You kind of can't make that up. The new episode of Detail featuring KD exclusively on ESPN+. Welcome back to The Jump. Here with Vince. Why did you decide you wanted KD to be the star of this operation for you?
Well, first of all, it was an honor to do Details. We already know, the late, great Kobe Bryant did a great job with that. And to get the call and I was asked if I would be willing to do it, it was a no-brainer, first of all. And then they asked, hey, here's some options. And I was like, KD. And so I wanted to pick KD and to remind people how good KD is and his abilities in different areas of the floor. Not only just his 1-2 dribble pull up or hang dribbles or everything. I mean, I want you to see his footwork and everything that he has to offer. And I know everybody was watching. It's like, oh, we're talking about a lot of other players around the league who are supposed to be the best players in the league. And I wanted people to remember that KD is also one of those guys.
I've said it on this show over and over in the last month. Don't sleep on Kevin Durant, people. He's Kevin Durant. Speaking of which, by the way, Steve Nash, his new coach, taking a very specific approach to handling Durant and his co-star Kyrie Irving's minutes this year. In the 3 games where they both were active, they played together for almost all of their 95 minutes. In fact, in those minutes together, they outscored opponents by 64 points. But when both have been on the bench, the Nets are a minus 23. So, Zach, a lot of teams try to stagger their stars. Do you think Nash taking this approach of playing them together could work long term?
I really like it. Again, you just nailed it. Staggering has been the sexy thing. You got to stagger them. Right. I think the Nets have taken a really long view to this whole season. How do we want to play when the games really matter in the playoffs? And the answer to that is we want those two guys together on the floor. And one of the great things about Kevin Durant, he is the most malleable superstar maybe in NBA history. He can play with other superstars. He can play on the ball, off the ball, post up, ISO, pick and roll, either ball handler or screener. He can do everything. He's so easy to play with. I like that they've leaned into this and said, you know what, with Karis LeVert, we can have a full-on sixth man, a full-on bench mob. Now the question is, does Spencer Dinwiddie's injury, which is such a bummer, make it harder for them to go this route hardcore long-term? Because he could be another ball handler that if Karis LeVert gets a little overwhelmed or they just need him a little more juice with the bench, Spencer plays those minutes. Now he's gone. But I bet they try and keep this setup. And I like it. They're not caving into the popular thing to do. They're thinking bigger, and I think it's a good move.
Well, I want to add to that. Typically when you see stagger, you're staggering it for a reason. And the reason I think teams tend to stagger, let's use Houston and James Harden and Westbrook, 2 ball-dominant guys, 2 point guards, if you would, who like to have the ball in their hands. So one of those guys has to sacrifice that situation. So you stagger them and let one of those 2 guys be the ball-dominant guy with the second unit. With this group, just like you said, Zach, Durant can play off the ball. He's a guy that doesn't need the ball in his hands from the start of the clock to the end of the clock. He can get down, post up, mid-post. You can put him anywhere you want on the court, and he can play. Also, Kyrie can also play without the ball as well. Just like I highlighted in my detail segment, sometimes when you have Kevin Durant starting the offense, playing through a big, and it's a pin down with Kyrie and Durant, that's tough, and you have decisions to make. So I think trial and error, why not? It's working so far, go for it. And then when you need to stagger or make adjustments, you do so. But right now, like you said, Zach, you're going for broke. They're plus 60 on teams. You want to just beat teams with your best player as much as possible so you can try to get them longer minutes of rest when you can, knowing that they can make up ground because of their ability to score.
Look, when you have guys who take away and diminish from each other because they both can't have the ball in their hands for enough time, you do need to stagger, right? You don't want your 2 stars to minimize each other. But when the fit is as good as Kyrie and KD, they don't minimize each other, they maximize each other, right? They exponentially improve what the other one can do. That's so valuable. But, Zach, you make such a good point with Spencer Dinwiddie. Do you expect the Nets to make a roster move now?
At some point, they probably will. The more interesting question to me is, how do they change their starting lineup? Do they promote Karis LeVert into the starting 5 and go all in around those 3 ball handlers? Do they try and keep him as their Manu Ginobili super 6-man and promote Timothy Luwawu-Cabarrot, Taurean Prince, somebody like that? My guess would be is they want to keep Karis on the bench. They like the vibe going there. But to me, the interesting question is how does it rejigger their rotation a little bit? We'll see in the next couple of days.
Yeah, and certainly that'll help them try out their options.
I agree. I hope, I know Steve, former teammate of mine, good friend. I hope he leaves LeVert on the bench and have him. You feature him that way. Yeah, I think he's going to become their 3rd scorer. So let him have his time with this with this style and the way you're playing, let him have his time with the second unit as the feature guy. And of course, sometimes you can play him with play the three of them together. But I think keep it this way. Go get somebody who can get you a bucket, who are ball handler, like a Jamal Crawford or someone who can score and get buckets with as well, and can be a ball handler.
Well, look, we certainly wish Spencer the best as he undergoes that surgery and recovery. Tough way to start a season. I know Hill will come through great, though. All right, let's switch gears and switch coasts. The Warriors offense had its ups and downs offensively to start the season. Held under 100 by the Nets and Bucks, but they broke out against the Bulls on Sunday. Unfortunately for Golden State, one of the new Warriors, Kelly Oubre, he's just been cold, guys. He's been cold. He's missing all 17 of his three-pointers that he's took so far, not yet made a single shot outside the paint. Now, he clearly will not shoot that bad all season. He is Tsunami Poppy, and Draymond Green supposed to return this week. That will help as well. But Vince, with no Clay, a rookie center, two new wings in Oubre and Wiggins, how should the Warriors adjust their offense? This is not the Hamptons 5 days.
Well, Coach Kerr, to me, who's a champion and knows how to coach and manage players, I foresee him doing something like this. You put those two guys in situations where they're going downhill early, getting fouled, getting to the free throw line, seeing the ball go in, layups, backdoors, lobs, things like that, athletic plays. Those are two athletic players. Put them in that situation first. I think when players go to Golden State because of what they're known for is shooting the three, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and a history of guys that's gone there, you feel like you, the player, has to shoot the three instead of be yourself and work your way into being the three-point threat like they are. And I think those guys like Wiggins, he can shoot the three, but he can get downhill and he's a mid-range player. Oubre, super athletic. Let those guys, encourage those guys to be those guys first and then work your way into the three-point shot, especially right now when you're not playing well.
I guess this is the price of dynastic success because the Warriors go on a 2-game losing streak and the Twitter coach brigade comes out telling Steve Kerr what he's supposed to do, scrap your offense, do this, do that. Like, can we just chill out a little bit? Draymond Green has not played 1 second yet. They're starting a rookie at center who basically didn't even play in college. Like, let's just dial it back for a minute. They should play fast, and they've committed to playing fast. They have a lot of long, athletic dudes. They're number one in the league in pace. And yes, they should probably reorient their beautiful game offense, redirect it a little bit toward more Steph pick and rolls. But Steph is never going to be James Harden. He's never going to be Damian Lillard. He's just not built to play 80 pick and rolls per game. I think you can definitely veer the offense more in that direction or blend their sort of ball movement, motion, screening, all that, which doesn't work as well without great shooters and great passes all over the place. Sort of blend it with more Steph pick and rolls. You know what that's going to take? Time. That's not easy to do in a second with a bunch of brand new guys who can't make an outside shot. And by the way, you want Steph to run a bunch of spread pick and rolls. This team has no spread. They don't have enough shooting. People are going to clog the lane on James Wiseman rolling to the rim. It's not that easy. Just give these guys a little time to get their players back and develop a system.
Zach, you say that as if the internet didn't have plenty of comment during the Warriors run. Of course they did. This team always and still under the microscope. All right, guys, coming up, we only have a week of games so far, but several players putting up performances worth noting. Jump ball early season edition.
That's going to open up even more shots for my teammates.
Congratulations, Nicola, on your first one of the season.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
I have no idea what that was. I have no idea what the facial hair is, but apparently if you have 18 assists, you can do whatever you want. With that, we kick off an early season edition of Jump Ball. First off, who is more likely to average a triple-double this season, Russell Westbrook or Nikola Jokic? Westbrook has 2 triple-doubles in 2 games this season. Jokic has 2 in 3 games, including, yes, that monster 18-assist triple-double last night. So, Vince, who you got here?
I can't pit Luka, so I'm going to go with Russ. I mean, Russ has already proven to us that he can average a triple-double. We know he can. We know he can do it. We know he wants to go out and show new life.
Yes.
And do for his team. So I'm going to pick Russ on this one.
Yeah, the safe and boring answer is Russ. He's done it before. Jokic has never averaged more than 7.5 assists in any season, so he's got a long hill to climb to sort of get to the 10 mark. But, man, it would be so fun if Nikola Jokic chased the triple-double. The guy is the most watchable player in the NBA. The passes he throws 10 passes a night that just have me laughing in front of my screen. They're so ridiculous and fun. But Russ has done it, and Russ is a safer bet to do it again.
I do feel like the two words I said watching that Nuggets game the most last night, come on. Come on. I mean, he does stuff that make you say, come on. It's insane watching him. So much fun. All right, guys, the NBA.
And I'll say, I play with J. Kidd.
Oh, yes.
I play with J. Kidd. And watching J. Kidd pass, I mean, and just the way he puts the ball down there, it's just kudos to him.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, the NBA has named its players of the week. Domantas Sabonis and Brandon Ingram, both career highs of about 7 assists per game in the early going. So, Zach, who was making the bigger playmaking leap, Sabonis or Ingram?
I think both the guys have been phenomenal. I think for playmaking, it's Ingram. Sabonis has always been a really good playmaking center. I just think he has the ball a little bit more. Guys have made more shots than in previous years. He's throwing basically the same passes he's always thrown, and he's incredible at it. And he's just killing people in the post, by the way. It's fun to watch. But Ingram is throwing more sophisticated passes in a more ball-dominant role. He's making both the easier passes right away to keep the offense moving and some of the harder, more sophisticated passes. His playmaking leap is super meaningful, and I think the hardest playmaking leap to make is sort of a lead ball handler from good to great. And I think he's showing he might be making that good to great leap as a playmaker, and if he is, that changes everything for the Pelicans.
Yeah, I pick Ingram as well, and I think it's just the progression. In the first couple of years in the NBA, you want to prove that you belong, and he's a scorer, so you want to prove that you can score with the best of the best. He made the All-Star game, so now he has a little swagger. He got a big payday, so swagger's there, so he's taking it to the next level. Scoring is going to be there now. Now he's showing the next step in the next piece to his puzzle to becoming a complete player, and that's his playmaking ability. So, yeah, we knew he was on the cusp of being a superstar. So payday, swagger, put those together. This is what you're getting.
Excellent. All right, let's talk rookies last of all. Anthony Edwards, James Wiseman were the top 2 picks, and as of right now, they're the top 2 leading scorers among rookies, too. So, Vince, who has had the more impressive rookie start, Wiseman or Edwards?
I mean, I have to go with Edwards, the number 1 pick. First of all, I read a tweet from Baron Davis, like, how many number 1 picks do you know that are not starting in NBA history? This guy is playing off the charts. He's super athletic. He's playing like he belongs, and he's playing like he's a number 1 pick. So I'm gonna pick Edwards, but it's so easy to pick Wiseman as well, playing along Steph Curry, who demands attention, the Warriors will utilize his athletic ability, but Edwards right now is playing lights out.
I'm going to go Wiseman. Again, like Vince said, both guys have been playing great. Both guys are ahead of maybe where we expected. But I'll go Wiseman only because, first of all, the 5 of 6 from 3, he's not going to shoot that much longer, but it's super impressive that he's already comfortable shooting that. Defensively, I think he has more to do than Edwards is the backline guy for the Warriors, and he's ahead of the curve for most rookie big men. He gets in a nice stance. He knows where to be. And on offense, he's got to make a lot of quick-hitting reads and stuff in Golden State's offense. So I'll go with Wiseman by a hair, but both those guys are, I think, even exceeding early season expectations.
Fun to see the new blood in the league. All right, guys, coming up, it's Raptors-Sixers in our League Pass game of the night, including what are your expectations for Joel Embiid, which Rick Carlisle said Kristaps Porzingis was, quote, full go at practice today. So, Vince, how much of a boost do you expect the Mavericks to get when Porzingis comes back?
It's a huge boost for the team. Another scorer, another go-to guy that they can feature. And you can put him in any position in the lineup and have success. And I think that'll open the floor up for Luka to dominate even more if that's even possible. But it's going to open up some scoring for some of the other guys as well.
It's obviously huge just in terms of raw talent. I think Luka and KP fit together really well. We're ahead of schedule in that regard last year. The biggest question for Dallas long term, honestly, is can KP stay healthy? If he can, this team can contend for championships for a long time.
Yeah, I worked on that Christmas Day broadcast with the game between the Mavericks and Lakers, and Rick Carlisle told us that Kristaps Porzingis was trying to play in that game. So he has been very eager to get back on the court. Certainly a great sign. He was ready to go and practice today. All right, guys, Master P and Baron Davis reportedly in talks to buy Reebok for $2.4 billion. Zach, do you think NBA players...
Did you say million?
Billion. Attracted back to Reebok with Master P and Baron Davis running the show? Baron Davis running the show? What do you think?
I hope so. I mean, those two guys are really cool. They're really popular, and more power to them. All I'm saying is make the Reebok pump a thing again. I don't even care if it works or not. Just make the Reebok pump a thing again, yes. And then we're off and running.
Yes. I say, hey, I mean, they're big names. They're going to bring in a lot of guys, and I say utilize your history of Reebok. Bring Allen Iverson back, feature him.
Right.
I mean, a lot of guys looked up to him. Bring his shoe back and bring back the pump. And while you're doing it, bring D Brown back with it.
I'm never going to argue with more Allen Iverson. So there you go. All right, guys, let's switch gears here because it was a tough scene for the Grizzlies last night. Ja Morant injuring his ankle after falling on a Nets defender in the second quarter. This was just hard to watch. I mean, he hopped off the court. He was writhing on the ground. We're still awaiting his MRI results. Now, Ja did tweet after the game, quote, "Every setback is a setup for a comeback. God wants to bring you out better than you were before." And he thanked people who sent their support. Vince, we don't know a timeline for him just yet, but how do you think the Grizzlies will do if they have an extended absence from Ja? Because Jaren Jackson Jr. is still not back either.
Well, I'll say this first of all. I mean, you have to think about the injury and looking at it. He jumps really high. And he was super high on that. So it's the impact for him, as opposed to some other players who don't jump quite as high, it's a little different. So it just makes it look, But I tell you, if you see look how high he is. I mean, so that's a long way down when you're not expecting it. But the team in general, they did a great job of just holding the fort against Brooklyn. Yes, I know there are two superstars out there, but Brooklyn Nets are still very, very capable and still a playoff team. We're a playoff team without Durant and Kyrie, but your team doesn't go without an impact player like Ja Morant. So for them, you want him back. You wish him a speedy recovery, but you want your superstar back at full bore, 100%. So I encourage him, and I hope the organization they don't rush him back. You want him to come back and to be the Ja Morant that you know and love him to be, and has no hesitation. So they can move forward, and they'll make up ground because of how good they are and how good he is.
Well, I can tell you this. They're not going to rush Ja Morant back. That's not how this regime operates under Zach Kleiman. They've taken the long view of everything. They're not getting irrationally exuberant because they almost made the playoffs last year. They're not hell-bent on chasing it. They're being cautious with their two young stars because they're playing the long game. That said, look, the margin for error or injury in the West is 0. 3 weeks, that could be your season. 3 weeks of your best player being out while Jaren Jackson Jr. is also out, that could be it. The Kings look frisky. The Spurs look frisky. The Wolves are competing. The Suns, I think, are going to be really good. The top teams are who they are. I mean, they're just, unless lots of other teams absorb injuries or other things that take people out of the lineup, your margin for a Ja Morant absence is very, very small before the season slips away. So fingers absolutely crossed that this is a short absence, but the Grizzlies are not going to rush him back. They're going to be smart.
Yeah, and then look, Rookie of the Year last year, obviously one of the most exciting young players in the league, so his long-term health is the most important. But you're right about the margin for error, Zach. Not only is the West so loaded, it's only 72 games this year, so one of 72 is more valuable than one of 82. It just matters. So depending on how much time he misses, it really could impact them significantly. All right, let's go to our League Pass game of the night. Producer's choice here, Raptors at 76ers. That's 7 p.m. Eastern. The Raptors looking to get their first win of the season tonight. Joel Embiid expected to play after sitting out the Sixers' last game when they, of course, lost to the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Yeah. I'm a star, shining brightest in the darkest times. I'm a star, twinkle twinkle. I bring the sparkle in, light your world. Yeah, 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 light your world up.